That's absolutely it. So when we think about the sustainability toolkit, the purpose for it, and real quick, Nancy Oko said, since we believe in the goals of our programs, we want them to live and reach new audiences. Absolutely. And so the purpose of the sustainability toolkit is that it is to provide projects with tools to sustain past CYFAR grant funding. Um, when we look at the CYFAR grant, part of it is that it's for 5 years and it's supposed to be designed so to help get you up and running and started so that at any time you're able to take over and be sustainable post CYFAR funding. That's one of the key things is that we want to be sustainable post CYFAR funding. Um, Another reason for the sustainability toolkit is that we want to highlight what everybody's doing. We want to highlight how successful different projects are. And so we try to do that. So as we look at what we do with the sustainability toolkit and what it is, it's first of all, it's something that we've been piloting with other in past years, but this year we're going full board. So all of our brand new, well, not brand new anymore, but all of our 2019 sites will be receiving this sustainability toolkit. And what it is first, we incorporate case studies. So, kind of like what we talked about, that purpose of highlighting successful sites, you're going to see case studies from you guys, from CYFAR Sustainable Community Projects, and we're going to highlight good things that they've done and best practices and things that will help you be sustainable. And the second part is that it's going to be incorporated into your monthly coaching calls. So as you work with your coaches, they're going to have sometimes where they're presenting certain topics and certain aspects of the toolkit. And again, it's not to insult anybody's intelligence or say you don't know this, but let's think about your team. You have everybody from experienced PIs that have been doing this for years and years and years that could teach this with their eyes closed all the way down to your graduate assistants who are brand new to this and have zero experience. So we kind of look at the lowest common denominator and we incorporate some basic principles, but it's designed to help get that conversation started. Um, and the other thing that we try to do is when we built it, we try to use the adult learning principles and the experiential learning model. So there's going to be some videos, there's going to be some leading questions to kind of get people involved. That was the idea behind it. And again, what it does is for that first 3 years, we're going to focus on capacity and infrastructure building. So during that time, we're going to talk about all these different topics. We're going to talk about what are attributes that make programs sustainable. We're going to talk about implementation quality, aligning with community needs, measuring implementation quality, um, how to use your champions and advisory committees. And then at the end of year two, beginning of year three, we're going to look at a sustainable spider web and what does that actually mean and how are we positioning ourselves as a a program to be sustainable. So those are just different things that we'll look at early on. And then in year three, going to year five, that focus will shift a little bit to development and fundraising. Now, some of the things that we talk about in the beginning are to help set the foundations for this. Because when we start to talk about are we going to share, are we going to ask, charge, earn, and again, you'll learn all more about this during your time with your coaches. But those things you can't just ask at year five. You can't reach out to a community partner in year five and say, hey, can you help support this going on? You have to build that relationship. You have to build the seeds. And kind of why we have Tony Bill invited is because he talks about this a lot about the relationship and how you build it so that you can get that fundraising and not just money, but what other resources can you get from partners? What can they provide? And we also talk about communicating outcomes because that is very important and key when we think about how do we sustain. We have to get buy-in of the community and all of our stakeholders. And part of that is having that full communications with them so that we can keep things going. So that's just a quick snapshot of what the sustainability toolkit looks like. Are there any questions about what it is and what the purpose is or anything else about that? Okay. At any time, if anybody has any questions, please feel free at any time to contact the CYFAR PDTA Center, or you can contact me directly. Um, I just put my email into the chat. So, but again, the idea of the sustainability toolkit is to help us to get those conversations, get those things started and going so that at the end of year 5, we can be sustainable without CYFAR grant funding. So if there's no more questions on that, then I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Suzanne, who's going to talk a little bit about a sustainability study that we're starting off with the CYFAR PDTA Center.
Thank you, Philip. Yes, so USDA NIFA asked the PDTA Center to do a sustainability study on all the CYFAR sustainable community projects. And if you want to go to the next slide, Philip. So they have asked us to identify current sustainability practices of the CYFAR sustainable community projects and to identify the relationship between these practices and the ability to continue programming after initial grant funding ends. If you want to hit enter, I did a really nice, there we go, the arrow, that's where we are right now. We, of course, cannot identify the relationship between the sustainability practices and the ability to continue programming since you still have your programming running right now. So what we are doing right now, and we'll start today, is to identify the current sustainability practices of your programs. And we will do that with the Program Sustainability Assessment Tool, the short called the PSET. The PSET was developed at Washington University in St. Louis. It was funded by the National Association of Chronic Disease Directors and Centers for Disease Control, the Office of Smoking and Health. It was originally developed for public health programs, but in the meantime has been successfully used by public health, social services, clinical care, and educational programs. They allow you to change the measure if you feel like you need to. We have researched it and felt like it was good the way it is. And so we are not making changes at this point, but if we find as we are running the study that we need to make changes, we can, which is a really nice feature of this assessment. It is a 40-question self-assessment with a 7-point Likert scale. And one of the benefits of this assessment tool is that it can be filled out by anyone who works on your program and also your stakeholders. And so not only you, I see that there's quite a few PIs right now in this session, but maybe also some program staff, community people that work in the communities, but even volunteers can fill out this assessment tool and give you a robust report of your sustainability capacities at that point in time. All right. So Philip just mentioned some things that the sustainability toolkit highlights, and this assessment tool highlights or measures kind of the same things. It might have different names. So there's 8 domains. They include strategic planning, partnerships, organizational capacity, program evaluation, program adaptation, communications, environmental support, and funding stability. This is a really strong assessment tool. It has a reliability average of 0.88, and each domain has a reliability of at least 0.79. So this is a very reliable tool. And this has been in the works since 2003 or 2007, but quite a while. So there has been quite a bit of research done on it. This is the tool that we will ask your program staff, PI evaluator, community program staff to fill out, and we will collect all that information, send back group reports to your program, and also do the sustainability study on all the CYFAR SEP programs. And I think this is the last of my slides. Yep. So if there are no questions, we have time left over, quite a bit. So if you want, you can already fill out this survey right now. You do not have to do it then when the message from the PDTA Center comes out to everyone, or we are open for other questions. Maybe we can stop the screen share, Philip, and I will unspotlight us so that we can see other folks. There we go. Are there any questions or comments, or someone wanting to really start the survey?
So I had a
I have a
comment.
question. Sorry, I might have missed
Okay.
it. Did you say this would be every year?
The sustainability to the study or the
Yes.
toolkits?
The study.
Yes, likely we will send it every year so that we can track progress towards sustainability.
Okay, so if you haven't actually implemented, that's okay then. You can still. Okay.
Yes, yeah. So this is this is not an assessment where you have the right or the wrong answers. It is really, you know, where are you in your sustainability building? And then the report will tell you these are things that you are not strong yet, so you can do more here, but these are things that you're already doing really well. For example, I can imagine that your program evaluation is set up very strong since you are presenting on this later this week. And so that might be an area where you can forget focusing on, but focus on something else. Yes. And so one of the really nice things about this assessment tool is that it gives you a strong report, especially if multiple people from your program fill out the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And so, Suzanne, there is a question, and I believe it's
Oh.
for not now, but later. Where is it going to be located to access it?
So if we are talking about the sustainability assessment, that will be sent from the CYFAR PDTA Center to, we haven't quite decided yet whether we are just going to send it to PIs and ask them to send it to program staff or just send it to the entire CYFAR listserv. But it will come in an email with an invitation to participate in the CYFAR sustainability study. And if you would like to start right now, I will actually put the link to the assessment tool in the chat. There we go.
I do have another question. Sorry. Would you prefer that multiple people from the team fill this out, or would you like a consensus as a group?
Yeah, no, we would like multiple people from the team to fill it out. Yes. So if you are going through the assessment tool, you'll see that the last question asks you if you would like your individual report. And then the survey itself will send you a summary of what you submitted. And then once we have multiple submissions from your program, the CYFAR PDTA Center will create a group report for you and send it back to the PI.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to kind of hit on Ellen Rowe's question about, she asked, all currently funded sites, regardless of year in the funding cycle, should complete the assessment. And the answer to that is yes. And,
yes.
And again, the reason why is because one of the goals of CYFAR grant funding is that if a program is a good program and it should be sustained. We want to provide that program tools to be sustainable post CYFAR funding. Um, and again, the with the sustainability toolkit, it's not to insult anybody's intelligence. It's not to try to tell people, one thing or another. It's just we know that there's going to be multiple different people on that team, from very seasoned PIs to, again, very young graduate assistants who are just joining extension, or, putting grant funds together. And so trying to be able to help drive those conversations and get people to understand that there's multiple things that we need to do, and all those things start in year one. um, because you can't ask a donor for resources in year 5 if that's the first time you met them. You got to build that relationship, and you got to also be able to present to them, hey, here's what our program is doing, here's some of the results. So it's a long process, but if you just indulge the toolkit and do some of those things, you'll see at the end of that process, we're looking at, you being able to sustain past CYFAR grant funding. So Ellen said, we have a site just completing year 5 funding. Should we include them as well in the self-assessment?
So that's a good question, Ellen. I think when you fill it out, just completed year 5 is not a choice. We will ask you what year your grant is in. So I think we would like you to fill it out with the 2019 grant in mind, because the goal is that eventually we ask you, when at the moment of completion, are you able to sustain your program? And if so, at the same level as you were doing during CYFAR, we were able to expand it, or we are sustaining it, but in smaller operations. And so since we don't have your data from during the grant, although I hope it's continuing, yeah, we would like to know the data for your 2019 grant. Thank you. And I see that you said will do, so I will hold you to it.
And just another quick point. One other thing that we would like people to kind of really wrap their heads around is some of the stuff that we do at the CYFAR PDTA Center is indirectly for the individual sites, but it's actually more so for CYFAR grant programming in general. We have to be able to provide Dr. Williams with the tools and the resources necessary so that she can go in front of Congress, so that she can go do different things and say, hey, here's what CYFAR grant funding has been able to do. We have X amount of programs that have been sustainable because we were able to get them started on that 5-year grant. We are able to do X, Y, and Z in the different communities. So when we look at some of the things that might not be focused specifically on your site, or might not be the perfect fit for your site, always remember that some of the things that we're doing, it's also to help all of us as a collective to continue to receive grant funding from the federal government. And that's also part of what this is, so that we can help make sites sustainable, because there's a lot of great programming that's going on with these CYFAR grants. Sadly enough, some of them aren't being sustained. And so how do we help you guys to make sure that the ones that we want to sustain are being sustained? And then 2, how do we answer the mail to Congress and say, see, this is what we're doing?
Any other questions? Are some of you already filling this out for us?
I haven't started it yet, but is it something you can stop and start, or do you need to complete it all at once?
Oh, that's a good question. I think so. It's an anonymous link because because we want as many people as possible to fill it out. So I need to see if I have turned that on. If not, I think Qualtrics has these tricks where you can send someone a link back. Let me see. See, this is why we present this, so that you can ask these smart questions. You can make these changes before people answer it. Yes, you can. I have save and continue checked.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yes. All right, well, I guess Philip and I will just hang out here for a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or put in the chat, and otherwise fill out the survey, or we will give you a couple minutes back. We do have a little closeout in the main room, which is the same link as we had for the keynote. If you want to let us know how this first day of virtual conferencing went. And otherwise, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Ellen Rowe.
Hey, Ellen.
Hi. I think the sustainability is a key point, and it is a selling point for Congress. And I would like to get the data sooner than later. Would it be possible to reach out to the group of sites that have just closed and ask them to complete the survey as a separate grouping to get that data faster?
Yeah. So the PSAT itself is really to be filled out during the programming. So we would have to do some mental gymnastics, maybe on like think back to a year ago, and then how is it sustaining? So yeah, let me raise this with the PDTA Center leadership team, and let you know.
Great, thank you.
And Suzanne, I don't know if you saw the 2 comments that are in the chat box.
Oh. That's weird. Well, it's good to know now, and then I can fix it tonight. Thank you, Kate. And Jody, yes, I think all the PowerPoints and maybe even recordings will be posted.
No, she wants them prior to the sessions, though. And yeah, I don't know how we can make that happen.
Yeah, I don't think we can.
And for everyone that's still on, the only other thing that I would just ask of you all is over the next couple of years, as you start to get more and more from your coaches through the toolkit, provide them with feedback on what you think of it. Because again, it's a never ending cycle of continuous quality improvement. So make sure you're providing thoughtful feedback.
I'm still working on the survey and there's nothing you can change about this, but it's just interesting as you read the questions, how many of them would be answered differently if there was no COVID?
Yes, thank you, Nancy. That is a really good point. And it's something that we will have to keep in mind as we are collecting these data, where from this year to hopefully next year, we'll see already a change because there are some changes in COVID. I can't say because I don't know, but I hope that sooner rather than later there will be changes. And so, yes, this is definitely something that we will need to take into account.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
I just waited until there's less than 10 people because I'm shy. No, and just to clarify, because like mine gets racing and this stuff and goes really good. So it's one link for them all, and inside there, I haven't looked at it yet. It will be easy for you to differentiate between which two have like two funded sites, right? And that'll be really so. And then for myself as a team lead, it's for the Prosper site, so I'm
Okay.
lead. Should I do two? Or should I think from this, like the 3,000 foot level and try to answer for both? Right?
So that's a good question. So
Right now I oversee 4 Prosper sites.
okay, but are all 4 of them funded by the same grant?
Just two.
Two grants.
Two CYFAR, and then there's the one Ellen was referencing, which just finished.
Okay, so for now, fill out the sites that fall under the 2019 grant.
Yep.
And then we'll come back to you to see whether we want to come back to the 2015 grantees and do that. So for now, you only have to fill it out once. But thank you for.
So so for myself, one for both sites.
Yes, because they are funded by the same grant.
Yep. And as I distribute to my 2 sites, though, that data is going to be they're in 2 different, even though they're like one, we had to get permission because we had one initial site
Uh-huh,
dropped out, picked up a second site, which is about a year behind almost as far as like
uh-huh.
the COVID delay as well. And like, it's progress. Which though, depending on team formation, it could just like in many ways launch it right in time with the other one by the end of this year. But
Mm-hmm.
they are kind of in two different places, really. So I think that might be
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And we don't have like let us know anything about that. So maybe we'll add a question where you can something like that. But otherwise,
what's there now for if like I send it to team members.
yeah. So we do ask what SCP you work on and the position you hold as part of the SCP, and then what funding year. So unless by role you can identify different sites, there's not really a way for us to differentiate between different sites if they are so separate.
Okay. Well, I wonder if I could direct my site folks to, I don't know how you're going to be able to like, query data or, on your end because it's one link for everybody.
Mhm.
Plus, we see the SFP site,
Yeah, we can pull down by SCP.
SEP. What
Yeah,
is-
by Sustainable Community Project. So
Sorry. Okay.
yep.
So if one's like SCP, then like the acronym LTS or Linden, or in theory, were you looking for like SCP Vermont?
That's what we're looking for, SCP Vermont.
Could they be like Vermont
Yeah.
1, Vermont 2?
So
Yeah.
so
No.
so practically yes. I mean, we can change the survey, and we can say, and we can add the community level data. But if we do it for Vermont, we have to do it for everyone. And so that is a really good question, and I'm going to raise it with my team, and we'll figure something out.
Okay. And if not, we'll just go with what we have, and
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. But,
Yeah. Are your sites geographically far apart, or are they very close together?
well, geographically speaking, they're about a half-hour drive apart.
Okay.
But
So
just very separate communities.
yeah, so that because Qualtrics captures geographical data when you submit a survey, and so we
Okay.
might be able to parse out based on that
Okay.
if they don't meet up in the middle and do it all together.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
yes, we'll figure something out. Thank you. We hadn't thought of that yet because, yeah.
And if let's say I dive in to like play with it,
Uh-huh.
can I like go through the questions and then stop and just not have it submit, so then I can like then.
Yeah,
back.
we'll have an incomplete record, and
Okay.
especially if you do it right now, I can see, oh, there's a Vermont entry that is not complete, and I can pull it out if you want.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
I might just let you have. I'm not going to jump in right now because it seems
Okay.
like you might want to just look at it tonight, anyways, based on
Yeah.
some other questions.
Yeah.
But, okay.
All right. Thank
Well,
you.
thanks.
Suzanne, I think we want to look into this because I think it's going to be an issue for other sites as well. I'm thinking of some of the sites that I coach that have multiple locations, and there might be interest, and it might be important to capture kind of the differences of populations in different areas, even if they're within the same state and project and all of those other things.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at our undergraduate student schedule, and I might be able to pull one in tomorrow to just add all the community sites to it. Yep.
That's a good
Yeah.
idea. Okay. Thanks. I'm glad I spoke up.
Yes,
Yeah.
so are we.
I guess that's it. I can probably go now.
All right.
Okay.
That's a really
Awesome.
good point. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
All right. You all have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right. I'm gonna leave Philip because I have to start back up the plenary session so that we can do the closeout in 8 minutes.
All right. And I'll see you when we close out here.
Perfect. Thank you.
All
right. Okay, so we're recording. It'll probably record something onto your computer or like convert, and then you got to save it.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you. Bye.